You weren't thinking of them. You weren't even missing them. But still, they appeared in your dream. Soft, familiar, uninvited. And you woke up with a pain you couldn't explain. Because this isn't about love anymore. It's about a message from Allah your heart hasn't decoded yet. 1. The person you see is a symbol for the part of you that's still untouched by the present. You keep dreaming of them. Sometimes it's blurry. Sometimes it's so clear it startles you awake. But every time, it feels real. You remember the way they looked at you, the way time used to slow down around them. You don't understand why this dream keeps returning, especially when you thought you already moved on. You've stopped talking about them. You've erased the photos, deleted the messages, even whispered du'as to finally let go. But then, you close your eyes, and there they are again. But what if I told you, this dream isn't really about them at all? What if Allah is not showing you who they are, but showing you who you were? When your soul felt something it hasn't felt in a long time, because when they were in your life, even if only briefly, you were different. Not because they completed you, not because they were perfect, but because something inside you woke up, a gentleness, a stillness, a version of you that felt more alive, more present, more trusting. And maybe the dream isn't calling you back to that person. It's calling you back to that feeling, to that purity, to the sincerity you carried before life made you guard your heart so tightly. You didn't just lose someone. You lost a piece of yourself with them, not in a dramatic, poetic way, but in quiet, painful, invisible ways, like when you started doubting your worth, or when you stopped believing your love could ever be safe again, or when you began to shrink your emotions because they once weren't returned. And now Allah, in His mercy, lets you revisit that moment, but only in your sleep. When the walls are down, when you're no longer pretending to be okay, when your soul is finally quiet enough to hear Him whisper, this dream isn't about wanting someone back. It's about realizing what you left behind in order to survive. The softness you lost, the trust you buried, the dreams you quietly gave up on. And maybe you've been trying to rebuild your life, but without that part of you, everything feels a little hollow, a little numb, like you're functioning but not feeling. So Allah gives you this dream, again and again, not to break you, but to guide you back to the version of you that still believed in beauty, before the world told you to toughen up, before people made you feel like your emotions were too much, before you taught yourself to stop hoping. He lets you see that version of yourself reflected in their presence, because that's when you were closest to your fitra, your pure state. Not because of them, but because of how you loved, how you gave, how you felt. But now it's time to realize, you don't need them to return to that place within you. You don't need their presence to reclaim your own. Allah is telling you, you can bring back that stillness, that purity, that soul-deep peace. But this time, it won't come through another person. It will come through Him, because the most beautiful parts of you were never created to depend on anyone's presence. They were gifts from Allah. And sometimes He lets someone awaken them, just so He can one day show you you had them all along. So when you see that person in your dreams again, breathe. Don't panic. Don't overthink. Just listen, not to the face in the dream, but to the feeling, the sacred, untouched part of you that's asking to come home. 2. When you dream of them, it's not a door to reopen. It's a boundary you still haven't sealed. You keep thinking maybe it's a sign, that maybe they're thinking of you too. that maybe, just maybe, this dream means something is still open between you, that Allah is guiding you back toward them. But what if it's the opposite? What if Allah is not telling you to reopen something, but finally close what you never had the strength to? You see, not every recurring dream is an invitation. Sometimes it's a warning, a sacred whisper from Allah. This door should have been sealed, but you keep leaving it cracked open, because deep down, even after everything, after the silence, the distance, the heartbreak, a small part of you still wonders if they'll come back. A tiny corner of your soul still waits for closure, still replays how it ended, still imagines what you'd say if they returned. You don't talk about it. You don't post about it. But it lingers, quietly. And that's the problem, because whatever you don't fully release becomes an open spiritual gate. And in that space between past pain and present silence, the dream walks in, not to soothe you, but to show you never truly closed this chapter. It's not love. It's not destiny. It's a spiritual boundary that's still leaking. And the longer you romanticize the dream, the longer you stay stuck between what was and what can't be anymore. Sometimes we leave certain doors cracked open, not because we're hopeful, but because we're afraid. Afraid that if we fully close it, we'll be left with nothing. No story. No what if. No excuse to hold on. But the truth is, holding on doesn't protect you. It drains you. It exhausts your soul. It blocks the light Allah wants to send you next. And so He gives you the dream. But not to say, go back. He shows you the unfinished boundary so you'll finally build it stronger. So you'll stop waiting for someone who already showed you they're not meant to walk further with you. So you'll stop praying for the same person and start praying for the right outcome. This dream is not the door you think it is. It's not an entryway. It's a mirror, a reflection of the corner of your heart you still haven't guarded properly. And until you close that door with conviction, you'll keep dreaming. You'll keep feeling haunted. You'll keep confusing spiritual instruction with emotional attachment. Because not every recurring person in your dream is an angel. Sometimes it's your nafs pulling you back to a version of yourself that hasn't healed yet. Sometimes it's Shaitan trying to make you chase a past that almost destroyed you. And sometimes, most beautifully, it's Allah showing you the crack in your protection so you can finally seal it. Not out of hate, not out of ego, but out of mercy for your future. Because there are people Allah removed, so you could rebuild walls high enough to protect the peace He's about to give you next. So the next time you see them in your sleep, don't ask, why are they back? Ask, what in me still lets them in? And then, close it, for real this time, so Allah can open what's truly written. 3. The silence in the dream speaks louder than any words they ever said in reality. There's something strange about these dreams. You see them, you feel their presence, but they rarely say anything. No long conversations, no dramatic apologies, just silence. They're there, looking at you, walking beside you, sometimes reaching out, but not speaking. And somehow, that silence hurts more than words ever could. You wake up wondering, why didn't they say anything? Why didn't I say anything? What was that supposed to mean? But maybe the silence was the message. Because sometimes Allah doesn't give you words in your dreams. He gives you feeling, a weight, a question, a sacred discomfort that lingers long after you open your eyes. And maybe that's the very thing you've been running from in your waking life. The unsaid, the unresolved, The moment you chose to stay quiet when you should have spoken up, or the moment they walked away and said nothing, left everything unfinished. So now, Allah shows it to you again, not to torture you, but to give your soul one more chance, to face what your mind kept burying, because it's not always the dramatic endings that break us. It's the quiet ones, the ones where we never got closure, never got the truth, never got to say, "You hurt me, I loved you, I was trying," or even, "Goodbye," and the silence in your dream. It's the echo of everything that was never said, not just by them, but by you too. Maybe you stopped expressing your pain in real life because no one truly listened. So Allah let it come out, in a place where no one could interrupt. No one could brush it off. No one could tell you to just move on. Maybe your soul is still holding on to words it never released. And now, in your sleep, Allah gives you a space to hear them without noise. No outside opinions, no distractions, just the raw silence of your own heart. And maybe that silence is Allah showing you what you've become too numb to feel during the day. Because you've been pretending so well. You've been strong for too long. And in doing that, you forgot what your own pain sounds like. So now, in the stillness of your dream, Allah speaks. But not through voices, through presence, through absence, through that heavy, sacred quietness that lingers in the air, like a message wrapped in stillness. He's showing you, this chapter isn't undone because of a lack of love. It's undone because of a lack of truth. And the reason it still haunts you is because it ended without explanation. But here's the truth. He wants you to know, you don't need their words to heal. You don't need a dramatic ending to find peace. You don't need closure from a person when Allah is already writing the next part of your story. The silence in the dream, it's not a void, it's a message. And sometimes that message is this. You don't need to go back and finish the conversation. You just need to accept that it's over. And in that acceptance, you'll find something louder than any goodbye could ever give you. Freedom, stillness, and a soul no longer waiting for words that were never meant to come. 4. The dream is your soul's way of grieving what you never got to mourn out loud. There are wounds that heal with time, and then there are wounds that never got the chance to be felt in the first place. Not because they weren't deep, but because life didn't give you the space to fall apart. You were expected to keep going, to stay strong, to act like nothing broke inside you. So you smiled. You laughed in front of people. You distracted yourself. You convinced the world you were fine. But grief, it's not something you can outrun. It waits, silently, inside your chest, until one night, when everything is quiet and your eyes finally close, it finds its way into your dreams. And then, there they are again. The one you lost, the one you let go, or the one who left without explanation. And suddenly, you're back in that moment. Not the physical one, the emotional one. The place your soul got stuck. That's what this dream is. It's not obsession. It's not weakness. It's your soul, finally trying to grieve what you were too busy, too afraid, or too numb to mourn out loud. Because you never got to say what you really felt. You never got to cry without holding back. You never got to scream, "That hurt me." So you carried it. You packed it away. You told yourself, it is what it is. But Allah knew better. He knew that just because you didn't break on the outside doesn't mean you weren't breaking on the inside. So he sent the dream to open the door you locked, to release the tears you never cried, to let your soul do what your lips never could. Grieve, And it's not just grief for the person, it's grief for the version of you that loved them, grief for the hopes you had, grief for the moments that will never come back, grief for the endings that happened too soon, or too silently. Sometimes your soul doesn't need a second chance. It just needs a moment to weep, to mourn the way you disappeared in that connection, to feel what you suppressed, to lay to rest what was never properly buried. Because the body can fake healing, the mind can distract, but the soul always remembers. And so the dream repeats, not to break you again, but to let you finish what you didn't even realize was still unfinished. Allah is so gentle with you. He doesn't expose your grief to the world. He brings it out in private, in your sleep, when you're alone, when you're finally still enough to feel. Because grief isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like sitting in the same dream again, with tears in your eyes and a heaviness in your chest that follows you into the morning. And in that moment, you wonder, why do I keep seeing them? But maybe the better question is, what part of me still needs to say goodbye? This dream isn't punishment. It's permission to fall apart, to let it hurt, to cry without guilt, to grieve without shame. Because once your soul has finally mourned the loss it buried, that's when healing begins. Not by erasing what happened, but by making peace with the fact that you felt something real and it mattered, even if it never made it to forever. 5. Allah sends you that dream to ask you one question. Did you learn what you were meant to? You saw them again last night. Maybe it was a flash, a single moment, or maybe the entire dream unfolded like a story you didn't want to end. But when you woke up, you didn't feel love. You didn't feel peace. You felt something else. A quiet, haunting question echoing in your soul. Why do I keep dreaming about this? And that's when it hits you. Maybe this isn't about the person. Maybe it's a lesson, a divine review of everything your heart went through, a sacred test paper, with just one question written by Allah Himself. Did you learn what you were meant to? Because here's a truth no one talks about. Pain that comes without reflection just becomes a cycle. You go through heartbreak, betrayal, loss, and instead of healing, you carry it like dead weight. But Allah doesn't break your heart just to leave you empty. He breaks it to awaken something in you that nothing else could have reached. So when you see them in your sleep, after all the time, after all the distance, after all the tears, you need to ask yourself, what did that experience teach me? Did it show me where I was weak, where I overextended, where I loved more than I protected? Did it show me my patterns, the way I confuse presence with purpose, the way I keep trying to prove I'm worthy to people who were never qualified to see my worth? Allah doesn't send these dreams so you'll chase someone again. He sends them to show you a mirror, the one you kept avoiding during the day. Because when you're awake, you're busy, you're scrolling, you're moving on. But in sleep, Allah makes sure you're still enough to look inward. And in that stillness, He brings back the face of the one who once meant everything. Not so you can run back, but so you can see clearly this time what you missed back then. How you abandoned parts of yourself to be loved. How you ignored red flags and called it faith. How you kept giving because you were afraid of being forgotten. But here's the beauty of Allah's mercy. He doesn't shame you. He teaches you. And when the lesson hasn't been fully understood, He doesn't punish you with pain. He brings the memory back gently, in your sleep, so you can sit with it, not rush through it. So you can ask yourself honestly, what did this person teach me about me? Because that's the point of it all. Not every connection is meant to last. but every connection is meant to teach. And when the teaching hasn't transformed you yet, Allah sends you the dream again, not because you didn't move on physically, but because your soul still hasn't evolved, still hasn't unlocked the wisdom, still hasn't rewritten the belief that caused the pain in the first place. Did you learn to guard your heart with dua? Did you learn that being alone with Allah is more healing than being accepted by someone who doesn't value you? Did you learn to stop chasing what feels familiar and start trusting what Allah wills as sacred? This dream isn't a sign that something is meant to be. It's a divine exam. And until you pass it, you'll keep waking up with the same emotional weight. Not because Allah is cruel, but because He loves you too much to let you graduate empty-handed. So tonight, if you dream again, if you see that same face, don't ask, "Why am I still dreaming about them?" Ask, "What part of this experience still holds a lesson I haven't lived yet?" And then sit with it, reflect on it, write it down if you have to. Because the moment you truly learn what Allah wanted to show you, the dream won't come back. Not because you've forgotten, but because now you finally understand. 6. The version of them you see is not who they are anymore. It's who you needed them to be. The dream feels real. They look the same. Their eyes, their voice, the way they stood beside you. It all feels untouched by time, like nothing ever changed. Like they're still the version you once knew, or thought you knew. But here's what your heart needs to hear. The person you keep seeing in your dreams isn't who they are now. It might not even be who they ever truly were. It's who you needed them to be at the time. It's the version your soul created to survive. Because sometimes we don't fall in love with a person, we fall in love with a feeling. The way they made us feel understood, seen, chosen. Or maybe they were the first person who made your pain feel less heavy. The first one who showed up when you felt invisible. And so, your heart wrapped them in light, even when their reality was full of shadows. In your dream, they're kind, they're safe, they're listening. But in real life, they weren't always those things. Maybe they were distant. Maybe they were confusing. Maybe they walked away when you needed them most. But your heart, your beautiful, loyal heart, held on to the potential instead of the pattern. And now, in your sleep, you keep seeing not the person, but the possibility, the version of them that would have stayed, that would have loved you right, that would have protected you when you were most fragile. And you wake up feeling confused, because part of you misses the dream version, but not the reality. And that contrast hurts, because it forces you to admit something hard. The one you loved might have only existed in your mind. Not out of delusion, but out of hope. Hope that someone could finally give you what your soul was starving for. But here's the wisdom hidden in that pain. Allah lets us dream of what we longed for, not so we chase it again, but so we realize where that need truly belongs. You didn't need them to stay. You needed to feel valued. You needed to feel heard. You needed to feel like someone could hold space for your heart without dropping it. And that's not weakness. That's humanity. But when we attach those needs to someone who wasn't written for us, we create a version of them in our minds, a perfect blend of memory and longing, and we mourn that version, not the real one. And so the dream comes back, gentle, silent, wrapped in emotion, not because Allah is telling you to run after them, but because He's gently showing you, Ya Abdai, you're still holding on to who you wished they were, but I never wrote them that way. And that's why you can't find peace. Because the dream version feels soft, but reality never matched it. And that disconnect is not your fault. You loved with hope. You believed in potential, and your heart tried to make the best out of brokenness. But now, Allah wants you to awaken from the illusion, to stop giving your heart to a memory you romanticized just because the real version left too many questions. He wants you to look inward and ask, what was I really looking for through them? And then, to realize that everything you craved through their reflection can be fulfilled through him. Because the love that heals you, the safety that stays, the gentleness that doesn't disappear, doesn't exist in a dream. It exists in the one who never changes and who knows every corner of your heart, even the ones you thought were too complicated to explain. So the next time you see them again, don't chase the image. Don't chase the possibility. Say Alhamdulillah for the lesson and return to the reality. They were never meant to complete you. They were meant to show you what only Allah can. 7. Allah showed you a glimpse of a bond your soul remembered but wasn't ready to hold. You saw them again last night, but this time it felt different. Not chaotic, not painful, just familiar. Like your soul already knew them. Like you weren't meeting for the first time, but returning to something you once had. The way they looked at you in the dream, the way you didn't have to explain yourself, the way you just understood each other, it felt too deep to be made up, too real to be fantasy. And maybe that's because it wasn't fantasy. There are people in this world that your soul recognizes before your eyes ever do. Because not all bonds are written in this dunya. Some are echoes from before you were born, from the realm of souls, where spirits met, connected, and parted, with a promise to one day find each other again. So when you see them in your dream, and you feel that unexplainable pull, it's not always desire. Sometimes it's memory. Not from this life, but from the one your soul still remembers in pieces. But here's the truth. Just because the bond is real, doesn't mean it's meant to be right now. Sometimes Allah shows you that deep, familiar connection, not to keep it, but to test you, to see if your heart can handle what your soul once knew, to see if you're ready for a love that feels divine, without confusing it with a timing that isn't. Because the dream may show you closeness, but closeness in the unseen does not always mean closeness in this world. And the soul that feels like home might be the same soul Allah is protecting you from, until you are ready to be home for someone too. You might not realize it, but the reason that bond never worked in real life isn't because it was false. It's because it was early, premature, and anything too sacred, if held too soon, can shatter in your hands before it ever fulfills its promise. That's why Allah is gentle with you. He doesn't always give you what your heart is convinced it needs. He gives it back in a dream, a glimpse, a moment where your soul gets to remember, without ruining what hasn't fully bloomed. And maybe that dream is not an invitation to chase them, but a whisper to prepare yourself, to grow into the version of you that can carry that kind of bond, without attachment, without fear, without ego, because if Allah wrote it, He's not trying to tease you with it. He's trying to ready you for it. But readiness isn't just about waiting. It's about becoming. Becoming someone who knows how to love, without losing yourself. Becoming someone who sees the soul, but surrenders the story to Allah. Becoming someone who understands, just because it feels like home, doesn't mean you're supposed to move in yet. And sometimes, the most sacred thing Allah can do is hold a bond away from you, until you no longer depend on it to define you, until you no longer seek healing in their presence, but in His. So if that dream felt too real to ignore, don't run toward it. Reflect on it. Ask Allah, Ya Rab, if this is from you, then prepare me for it. And if it's not, then remove the illusion without pain. Because not every connection that feels divine is meant to stay right now. Some are paused, protected, preserved by Allah, until the version of you that's still being written can hold it without breaking it. So, trust the dream, not as a green light, but as a reminder. What your soul remembers, Allah never forgets. And if it's truly written, you won't need to dream it. One day, you'll wake up and live it. 8. You keep seeing them in your sleep because your soul is trying to leave something behind. You keep seeing them in different places, different scenes. Sometimes they're close, other times distant, but always there. And you don't know why. You tell yourself you've let go, you've moved on, you're doing better now. But every few nights, your soul disagrees, not with words, but with memories. You wake up with a feeling you can't shake. Not love, not longing, something more subtle, unfinished. Because sometimes it's not about missing them. It's not about wanting them back. It's not even about the connection you once had. It's about the part of you that never truly walked away. The part that stayed frozen in that one moment, that one conversation, that final goodbye that never really felt final. And now, in your sleep, your soul keeps returning there, not to hold on, but to leave something behind, to drop the last pieces you didn't realize you were still carrying, the tiny attachments, the unspoken what-ifs, the quiet guilt, the hope you didn't even know was still alive. Because your soul is wise. It knows you can't carry everything into the next chapter. And sometimes the heaviest burdens aren't the memories themselves, but the emotions you attach to them. Maybe it's not the person you're still holding on to. Maybe it's who you were when they loved you, or who you thought you had to be to keep them. Maybe it's the story you told yourself, that if they stayed, I'd finally feel enough. But Allah is showing you that chapter is over, not because it wasn't real, but because you have outgrown the version of yourself that once needed it to stay. That's why the dream doesn't feel like a reunion anymore. It feels like a soft goodbye, a final visit before release, a way for your soul to return to the scene, but this time to walk away willingly. And Allah, in His mercy, lets you do it gently. He doesn't rip the memories from you. He brings them back, in silence, in symbols, in scenes only your heart can understand, until you finally whisper within the dream, I don't need this anymore. You don't have to hate them to move on. You don't have to erase every memory. You just have to return what you borrowed from that story. Your self-worth, your peace, your future, and carry only what still serves your soul. Because some dreams are not signs to go back. They're signs that you're almost ready to move forward, without dragging the past behind you. So the next time you see them, don't panic. Don't cling to the illusion. Don't overanalyze the dream. Just listen to what your Ra is trying to say. It's time. Let's finally let this go. And when you do, when you let go not with bitterness, but with clarity, the dream will fade. Not because it wasn't meaningful, but because your soul finally got to finish what your heart never could. You're not being haunted. You're being healed. One silent goodbye at a time, in the quiet corners of your sleep, where only you and Allah know what was left unsaid. If they keep appearing in your dreams, don't rush to call it a sign. Don't mistake it for love. And don't carry the illusion back into your day, because it's not them your soul is holding on to. It's what you never got to release. It's the version of you that's still waiting to be seen, waiting to be healed, waiting to be returned to Allah. This isn't obsession. It isn't weakness. It's a message from the one who speaks, even when your own heart goes quiet. And if the dream keeps coming, it means he's not done teaching you. He's not done softening you. He's not done healing you. So next time you see them again, don't chase the memory. Close your eyes, place your hand over your heart, and whisper, Ya Allah, if this is a test, help me pass it. If it's a lesson, help me learn it. And if it's time, help me let go of what you never wrote for me. Because the dream is not the destination, it's the mirror. And Allah is showing you exactly where your soul is ready to be set free.